Fahad again with the video, and this time the topic of the video is economics 2281 production possibility curve. From the exam perspective, this is very much important topic, but again, starting with the definition, we'll try our level best that the things should be easier for all of you. So first of all, we need to learn what do you mean by the word production possibility curve, the maximum output a country can produce. So how much a country can produce, and draw a diagram that show you that this graph is very much important. And how it is important, because we have to label both the sides, and it shows that how much a country can produce within an economy. So we have on the y-axis the consumer goods, which means that those goods which are directly consumed by the consumer do not further process those goods. And if I talk about the capital goods, what are those capital goods? These goods are used for the further production of other goods. So there are two types of goods. This is the first assumption of capital and consumer goods. Okay. So this graph shows the production possibility curve. Again, I am making it on an online whiteboard, so the line might not be the straight one, but again I'll try my level best to build the boundary. This is termed as the boundary. Okay, this is the boundary. We cannot exceed beyond this boundary, and this is labeled as PPC. Three things need to be made sure before you label the diagram. What is that? This word should be here, this word should be here, this PPC should be here, and you should put the arrows. What do these arrows show? These arrows show to the examiner, to the person who's reading the graph, that this graph is being continued further, but we have made till here. Okay, so on the y-axis it is consumer goods, and on the x-axis it is capital goods. What is capital goods? Capital goods are those goods which are used for the manufacturing of other goods. They help in the manufacturing or the production of other goods. What is a consumer good? Consumer good, a good which is consumed directly. If I talk about some of the brands, which can be a detergent, which can be air conditioner, these things are consumed directly. So these are consumer goods. But if I talk about capital goods, these are used for further production. The biggest thing which comes in my mind is the machinery which is required for the production, and the other things could be the screwdrivers and these things which are required for the production. If I talk about this thing, that either we should go for capital goods or we should go for consumer goods. Sir, why we cannot produce both? Because we would have learned this thing in the earlier topic, that we have a term which is termed as opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is that next best alternative which we have to give up in order to produce something. Why we have to go for an opportunity cost? Because we have scarcity. Many of the times your examiner will ask you this question in the past papers, in the MCQs mostly, that which concepts are demonstrated by the production possibility curve, and what is the answer of the MCQ? Opportunity cost and scarcity. Sometimes it will give you both the options in one option, that could be C or D, but some of the times it will give you only scarcity or opportunity cost. Both of these concepts are reflected in the production possibility curve. If I draw a point which is y, and if I draw a point which is x, this y point shows that this point is unattainable, but there is a condition. What is that condition? Unattainable with current resources. Okay, but the examiner will ask you what this y point represents. You will only say it is unattainable. It is by default that with the current resources. I am only explaining to you people because you people need to understand this. This is the first time you would be learning this topic. X means that this is attainable, but this is inefficient. What does it mean? It means the factors of production or the resources are wasted out, or the resources have been wasted. That means the production potential of the country was more, but the resources were wasted in such a way because of many of the reasons. So this is one of the reasons that the resources are wasted. So sir, what is the efficient point? The efficient point in all of this is this one, producing on the line, either on A point, either on B point. There could be several points on that. Let's come back again to the same discussion of capital or consumer goods. Why we have to choose in between? Because we have opportunity cost, we have scarcity. Okay, so connecting this with the lecture, so the capital goods can either be produced or consumer. Sir, if I produce all of this, so I would have more of the machines to produce more in the future time period, but there will not be anything for present. So can I survive in the present time period? The answer is no. No survival in the present time period. But if I ask you, sir, if I produce all of the consumer goods, so what about the future? No possibility of survival in the future. What about the present? It's very good. Okay, it's the best thing in the present because we have a lot of things to consume. So we cannot go either for this, all of this, or all of this. What we need to do, the first thing which comes in our mind is making a combination of both of these things. So how do we make the combination? Let's see that in with the help of graph. I'm reviewing this. If you want to write it down, you can pause the video and write it down or note it down if there is anything which is important for you people. Okay, so let's come back to this thing again, that is the point sections. The heading for this would be the calculation of opportunity cost. Okay, the calculation of opportunity cost. How do we calculate the opportunity cost? This is something, a question for the students, because this also comes a lot in the MCQs, and there are questions in paper 2 too, in igcse and in O levels both. Okay, so this is a production possibility curve. I have made it small. Maybe the curve is like this, the production possibility curve. At a point, maybe you have labeled all the things. This is capital goods. You need to label first, and otherwise your diagram will not be appropriate. This is consumer goods. Totally you can produce either 100 of this or 100 of this. If you are producing at a point, so you are producing 90 of this and 50 of this. Okay, but if you are moving to point B, so what you need to see, you need to see one thing, that you are leaving some of the goods and going some of the, and getting some of the additional goods. You are moving like this, and you are going to, let's suppose, 70 of this good. So your examiner would ask you, what is the opportunity cost of moving from A to B point? So if you could see, you compare. At A point we have capital goods of, at A point you have capital goods which are worth 90 units. Okay, at A point you have capital goods which are, I can say, 50 units. Okay, so 50 units are there for A point. But if I talk about B point, the capital goods of B point, if I compare it with the next situation which is there, so the capital goods at B point becomes 70 capital goods, 70 units, and consumer goods are becoming 70 again. Okay, 70 units. So if you could see, the opportunity cost definition is that the next best alternative given up so far. So what are we giving up? Earlier we were at capital units of 90 units capital goods, but now we have 70 units. So don't you think we are leaving 20 units in this scenario? So whenever the question will be asking you what is the opportunity cost of moving from A to B, it would be 20 units of what? 20 units of capital goods. Okay, because if you could compare the consumer goods with the consumer goods, these are increasing in terms of number. Earlier it was 50 and now it is 70 units. Okay, so you can see this thing, that how much you have to leave in order to get the one. But the opportunity cost definition says whatever you have to leave is termed as opportunity cost. So we have to find out whatever we have to leave. It could be any combination, C part, D part, it could be E part. There could be many combinations in this, and again the simple formula is to compare the point with the earlier point. The examiner will tell you, let's suppose we are at X point, now we have to move to the B point. So the value of units at X point comparison with the B point, you will get to know about the opportunity cost very easily. The whole topic rotates around this. Okay, so your MCQs should be good, because even 1 mark is very much important if you want to acquire a position, if you want to be a distinction holder, if you want to even pass. Even for passing grade, 1 mark is very much important. You can ask a student who is who wants to get 1 mark for passing, he or she would know that the importance of that 1 mark which is missed when he or she failed in the examination. Okay, so let's move on to one another thing, that is the economic growth, which is another important part of this prediction possibility curve. Economic growth means that when your resources or factors of production grow in terms of what? Grow in terms of resources, grow in terms of quantity. So again labeling the graph, capital goods and again consumer goods. Excuse me for my writing, because I am repeating it in the verbally, so I hope you are able to get it what I am writing. This is capital goods, this is consumer goods, this is 100, maybe this is 100 for the simplicity part, PPC curve. So maybe there are, with the passage of time, the factors of production increase, and this is another chapter, increase in the quantity of factors of production. Maybe you got some of the coal, that means your land factor of production increase. Maybe your labor were having the rule rules of let's suppose earlier you were saying that you need university graduates at least to work in the field, but now you're saying at least an A levels qualified person needs to be there. So again you will increase the quantity of labor. Capital, more of the machines are available to work, and last is entrepreneur, the one who takes the risk. There are more people willing to take risk. In this way, what you can do, you will increase the quantity of what? You will increase the quantity of factors of production. So what will happen? Your production possibility curve will shift outside like this. This is termed as PPC1. You need to label it correctly because your examiner wants to see the things. You have to put the lines like this. So from 100 to 120 you are going from left side to the right hand side. Whenever there will be an increase, it is termed as right hand side shift. Okay, but sir, if there is an inside shift, let me do that again. If there is an inside shift, again this is capital goods and this is consumer goods. So if this is a PPC curve like this, there were 100 units, there were 100, and don't give a conclusion at this time that there can only be 100 units at the same time. I'm only using these figures for the simplicity part. It could be any value over here. Okay, so now your production possibility curve is shifting inwards, as you can see. When it is shifting inwards, so your production possibility curve overall units will decrease. That is not termed as growth, that is decrease in quantity of units which can be produced this time. Okay, so this would be PPC1. So you can see that the economic growth is being reversed. Whatever we grow, we are going backwards. So it can happen just because the land reserves have been just because the land factor of production has exhausted. Maybe there was a lot of coal which was used earlier, now it has depleted, it has decreased. Maybe the labor workers are not trained enough, they are decreasing with the passage of time. Maybe the capital has decreased and the entrepreneurs who are willing to take the risk are not ready to take the risk furthermore. So there could be many reasons of that. So apart from this economic growth, there are certain other things which we have to learn in this, and that is a shape which we can say increasing returns and increasing opportunity cost and decreasing opportunity cost. So I'll only give you a glimpse of that, but it's not necessary to learn everything in this because you need to use your own common sense in that. Okay, this is a graph. This is your capital goods and this is your consumer goods. Okay, so maybe your consumer goods are at this point and your capital goods are at this point. 100 of this and 100. For the simplicity part, I'm using this. So this way, if your curve is like this, so your capital goods are increasing, and why your capital goods will be increasing? The reason is that there could be an increase in factor of production capital. There would be more machines which could be made. Okay, so when the more machines could be made, so what will happen? It would be termed as economic growth, but there will only be an increase in capital goods. There will be MCQ which will be asking which factor of production is responsible for this. So this factor of production, that is capital. Okay, and again another graph for this. What will be that? That graph would be showing a different kind of shift, a different kind of growth. And what is that? Consumer goods on the y-axis and capital on the x-axis. Again, I'm making the same diagram. PPC curve is over here. You are being 100 and 100. So this could be a situation where you are producing the same units. So it could be a PPC over here and this is PPC1. Okay, so this is moving. Earlier you were producing 70. So now there is only growth in capital goods. Again, there was also growth in capital goods. So I think we can change this diagram to a growth in what? A growth in consumer goods. So let's change it to the growth in consumer goods this time, so that you could have a different flavor, a different concept in this. So this is a graph of PPC production possibility curve, 100 of this and 100 of that. Okay, so now you are observing that there is an increase in. So this graph is difficult to make, but again I'm trying my level best. This is your new PPC graph. PPC1, you can produce 120 of consumers, but the same 100 is produced. And which factors of production could have increased, which would have caused this growth? The factors of production: land, labor, or enterprise. Okay, that could be the factor of production which would have contributed to this. So I hope you people are able to understand this concept. Last thing but not the least I have to tell you is that There are certain things which are very much important in terms of increase, that whenever there is an increase in the factors of production, we need to see which factor of production would have increased because of the increase in the capital good or the consumer good. First thing. Second thing, sir, is it necessary to make or label the graph with the two things? Let's suppose I am saying it is capital goods over here and it is consumer goods. No, it is not mandatory to label it like this. We can compare between two goods. It could be any two goods. It could be food over here, it could be drinks over here, it could be anything, but there should be a comparison in between. First thing. Second thing, there are certain assumptions of a production possibility curve. So I'll be telling the assumptions verbally and I'll try my level best to write it down. There are only two goods. Okay, this is the first assumption. I'll write it down over here. Assumptions of production. There are only two goods in the world, that is consumer and capital. Both the goods can utilize the resources effectively. What do I mean by this? Utilize the resources effectively. It means that those resources which are good in uh, in producing consumer goods can easily produce the capital goods. It's not mandatory. Okay, in the practical words, those resources which are producing the consumer goods are not good in producing the capital goods. A worker who is who's a good mechanic, who's a good technician of something, would not be a good technician or a mechanic in another thing. Maybe a dentist who is good in doing the oral surgery, is he or she might not be good in any other thing. So it is not mandatory in that case. So you have to think on your own. First assumption, there are only two goods, that is consumer and capital goods. Second assumption, both goods can utilize the resources factors of production easily. That means that if 10 resources or 10 factors of production are used for the production of consumer goods, so those 10 factors of production, if shifted to capital goods, will also give the same output or can produce the capital goods. It's the biggest assumption in that. Okay, so we don't need to go for that assumption. So I hope I've explained everything